Hi, welcome to today's webinar, The 14 Steps to Financial Freedom, hosted by MAPS Coach Heidi Fore. Before I kick it over to her, I have three quick announcements. Please note this meeting is being recorded. I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel, where the recording will be available within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, we do value group participation, so we ask that if you have any questions for Heidi, please type them in the chat box. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs, feel free to email fasttrack, FASTTRACK @kw.com. That's all for me, Heidi. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Heidi Fore, and I love teaching people the steps to financial freedom. And today we will be talking about 14 steps from where you are now, even if you're just getting started, to being financially free. So this is a sample of a much longer workshop that I teach, and you are going to get good nuggets today. I have been a realtor for 20 years. I've been a MAPS coach for 7 years, and I own 55 rental units, otherwise known as rental doors. Sometimes you hear investors talk about units, doors, and properties instead of houses or buildings. And that means that I could, at any given time, have 55 tenants in separate units. And I bought all of them since 2018, when it was supposedly a terrible market for buying and there's nothing available. But I'm telling you how I did it in all of my classes. So before taking action on this class or any of my classes, I have to tell you this: talk to an attorney about what's right for you and your situation. Talk to your accountant, talk to your financial planner, talk to your realtor, and make good decisions based on where you are financially in your life. Here's what you'll learn today. It's an overview of the steps to replace your job income with passive income. And again, today is just a 30-minute sample of an 8-hour course. So we are kind of water skiing on the surface of all of the subjects today. If you want more information on exactly how to do all of the steps, please come to my 8-session workshop, which starts next week. And you can always go get information on that 8-session workshop on the website fundyourbiglife.com. It's on the screen. And I'll have a QR code at the end of this and a coupon code, so stay tuned for that. Here's step 1 on your journey from where you are now to having financial freedom, being able to walk away from your job or stay in your job just because it's fun and you love it, but not because you have to have it for a paycheck. Step 1 is gaining knowledge and making your plan. Get the knowledge from classes, from books, and from mentors, attending online webinars like you are today, going to in-person classes, going to the bookstore and picking up books or listening to audiobooks, asking mentors to copy your lunch, podcasts, email newsletters that your mentors put out, follow those. I go to Real Estate Investor Association events. I'm on their newsletter email list. I go on meetup.com and I find investor groups there, and I time block for it. I have a goal to go to 1 a week. And I buy properties in different areas. And so I go to meetups in those areas and nearby areas. I also, whenever I have to take continuing education classes as a realtor, I take it on investor topics. So there's a win-win for you. You can get your continuing ed hours and learn more about things like 1031 exchanges and those types of topics. Of course, I'm going to say you should take my class, Fund Your Big Life with Rental Properties, and it starts next week, as a way to know the steps. So you're in step 1 now, good job. Step 2 is deciding what type of property makes sense for you to buy next. Some people I know love buying condos, some love buying houses, a duplex, triplex, fourplex. Should it be a large apartment building with over 5 units? Should you buy it as a syndication or just get some investors together to go in on it together and form an LLC? Do you want to buy a mobile home park or an RV park? Do you want storage buildings, commercial space? Should your condo or house that you buy be a short-term or a mid-term or a long-term hold? So these are all things that you do during step 2. It's part of the planning process and making that decision and knowing your criteria of what you need for cash flow and how many of those that you would need to be able to replace your job income. And then once you know that, type of property that you want to invest in. Step 3 is going to be finding those potential properties to buy that meet your criteria on paper. And then you'll need to dig and do research to make sure it actually does in reality. So after you decide on your criteria for cash flow dollars per year, and you decide that you need, and you decide on your cash on cash return percentage annually, and you decide on the exit strategy for each property, which would include appreciation, then you can decide the best way to pay for it. And you'll decide if you're going to do a cash out refinance later, or if you're going to sell it in a few years and do a 1031 exchange with it. Then you'll find an area of the country where the cash flow makes sense for you. And I have a whole class on this. It's one of my sessions as part of the workshop, is where to find property and how to analyze it. And the next step would be for you to block time to look every day or every week. There's probably going to be just a few, maybe 5 or 10 websites that you continually go to. And I suggest setting up your searches on those sites, saving the link to those, putting it in your time blocked calendar event that repeats. So it's so easy for you to just go to your calendar when it's time blocked for you to do it, click on those links, see if there's anything that matches your criteria so that you can quickly run the analysis and make the offer. So over in the chat, it says, there's a question from Harvey that says, do you ever buy rental properties that have negative cash flow now and for a period of time in the future? No, this is not the market for that. I know some investors, I know one in particular in Toronto, Canada, who has his like, I don't really care about cash flow because the appreciation is so high here in Toronto, but this is not the environment for that. We have no idea what appreciation is going to be next year or the year after that. So I absolutely would not buy based on appreciation right now. Great question, though. I get that a lot. So the next step 4, is to evaluate a property that you might buy using a spreadsheet or an app, and then know what to look for when you tour it. There's several websites you can use or apps that you can use on your phone or your iPad. Some of you like to use spreadsheets. I like all 3. So I start with an app that I use, an app called Ballpark Deal. And then that's my filter. If it looks good on that, then I go to the website called Deal Check, dealcheck.io, where I have like saved all my criteria. And then if it looks good on that, I'll run it through my spreadsheet where I can get really particular with the income and expenses and make sure it looks good there. And then if it looks good there, I go right to making an offer. Okay, so we have another question in the chat. What have you found to be a good cash on cash return amount? I talk with a lot of investors coast to coast, and for a lot of investors, they've said if something is going to be on a 15-year mortgage and there's a property manager, they're happy getting like $200 a month in cash flow profit. But if it's on a 30-year, there's not a property manager, like they probably want to see $300 a month if they're going to manage it themselves. They want that cash flow to be here, $300 a month in profit after all the expenses. So, and someone else said, can you help us back into what we want or need for monthly income? Yeah, great question. So here's an easy way to think of it. Let's pretend you know that you need $6,000 a month to be able to pay for your life expenses. So if you know that it takes $6,000 for you to pay for your housing, your groceries, your utility, and maybe that's what you've got coming in right now as a paycheck, then or active income, $6,000. Let's pretend that you have the criteria of $300 per month per unit. Then you're going to need 20 properties, which you can absolutely get over the next 5 years. You could get 20 properties over the next 2 years. It's just going to take some planning and some work. So the step 1 in knowing how many properties you need is how much income do you have coming in and what are your expenses? And so you're going to need to replace the income you have coming in enough to cover your expenses. So you'll need to know what you need per property. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do when you're looking at your dollars coming in from these properties is know that even though They might be in good shape now. They're going to need repairs. They're going to need maintenance. And at some point, they're going to be vacant. People don't stay in apartments forever. They don't stay in houses they rent forever. So you've got to decide, how often do you think that property is going to be vacant? Is it going to be 1 month out of every 24? Do you think it's going to turn over every year and it's going to be vacant for a month? Or do you think it's going to be vacant for 2 weeks, once a year, but it's going to fill up quickly? So those are the things that you need to analyze per property. One of my coaching clients, she buys homes near a university, and they never go vacant, not even for a week, because as these college kids are moving out, they've told their friends, hey, our house is going to be available on this date, be ready. And they find her the next people that are moving in, and they turn it over in a weekend. So every situation is going to be different, but that's something that you need to budget when you're doing your analysis on properties. And Graham just reminded us in the chat, if you're just joining us, save this link, and the recording is going to be available within 24 hours. So if you're thinking, what did she say about that? Just come back and watch it again, and you'll be able to pause it and take notes on the replay. Yes, so someone else said, what about the lending? I thought there was a max per income to debt ratio. So one of the things that we talk about in some of my videos, which you'll be able to find on our YouTube page too, is the different types of ways to buy properties through lenders. Not every lender has the same requirements. Many times you've got many different requirements that vary from lender to lender, whether it's the debt to income ratio, or it's how much rent income is coming in versus the loan amount, the loan payments. So that every lender is different. If you're not getting the answers that you like at one lender, call 10 more. Find a lender that will lend to you on your terms. And we do talk more about that in my other videos. $2,400 a month seems like a low net for the risk and carrying costs per door. So that is just what some people have said that is good for them. If that's not good for you, then set your criteria higher. Maybe for you, you want $1,000 per month per door. And so you want to pay cash for everything and know that you've got $1,000 of profit coming in. It also is going to depend on how expensive of the home is that you're selling and how much the rent is in that area. So you've got several things to keep in mind there. One is what you're willing to do for your criteria. If you're like, that's not enough money for the risk, okay, well then make your criteria different, and then don't buy a house unless it meets your criteria. So we've just talked about step 4, and I am going to keep going. I'm going to try to get to all the questions. If not, I'll try to find you later to get to these questions at another time, but I do want to get through all 14 steps today, even if we're just water skiing on the surface of them. So step 5 is decide the best way to pay for it. Once you find a property that you know is the type of property you like, it's in the location you like, the numbers look good, then you decide how to pay for it. So of course you could pay cash. If you've got cash in your savings account, that's great. Now, going into this next 6 months or 12 months of, let's just call it uncertainty, don't drain your savings. Even if it's an amazing deal, please don't drain your savings. Have a minimum amount that you always keep in savings that you would be able to get to in for emergencies. Also, we have to pay income taxes. Some people forget about that. So make sure you're not using all of your savings that you're going to need in order to pay taxes. You could also always get a line of credit or a cash out refinance from another property that you own. Maybe it's the house that you live in, or it's one of your other rentals that you have. You could consider that instead of selling something. Somebody recently said, I've got a ton of equity in one of my houses, and I don't want to do a cash out refi because the mortgage I have on it is so good. I don't want to get rid of that because the cash out refi loan would mean replacing that mortgage. And I said something to her that she hadn't thought about. I was like, well, what about just getting a second loan or a line of credit on it? You can keep that first loan. It's really great, but still get to the equity that you have in it. She was like, I hadn't thought of that. I thought I would have to replace my whole loan. You don't have to. So that's something to consider. You could also just make sure that you are saving, living on a personal budget. and saving 20% of everything that you make so that you can pay 20% for a down payment when a great deal comes up. If you're going to get a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you're going to have to put 25% down. But you can get a really great deal right now that cash flows with 20 or 25% down on a traditional fixed rate loan for 30 years or 15 years. You could also consider getting an adjustable rate mortgage at even lower amount through a small bank. Maybe they have a commercial product or portfolio loan where they'd be able to do that for you. That's another option. You can get a debt partner, somebody who is not a bank, but has a lot of money, doesn't want to do the landlording and doesn't want to do the deal finding. They just want to lend the money. That's called having a debt partner, also known as private money. There are companies that will do this, and those are called hard money lenders. We'll talk more about this in my other videos in my classes. Or you can get an equity partner, somebody that says, hey, you put in the hustle and I'll put in the money and we'll split the profits. What do you think? That's an equity partner where you both own the house that you buy together, but you're putting in the work because maybe you don't have the money and they don't want to put any work. They don't have the time, but they have the money. And you decide to buy the house together. It could be 50-50, 60-40. You can make up the terms with them. And there's many other ways, which are the longer version of this video. Step 6 is make an offer and then close on it. There's checklists that need to be followed to protect you and to make sure that just because you're making so many offers, you're not forgetting something. That sometimes happens to me if I don't use a checklist. So I've made checklists for myself that before I turn in an offer, I'm doing this, 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 and this, which you'll get in my course, the longer version of my course. Check out your laws for your area to see if you can make your own purchase agreement, if it's allowed in your state. Not a lot of people know this, but if you can do that and make it in a Google Doc, you can then easily and quickly fill out a Google form that then populates the answers of your Google form that you're filling out yourself. And then it populates that purchase agreement. Then you can send it off to the seller. I can get an offer out within 7 minutes using that method. And then, like I was saying before, use checklists for everything. Use a checklist for writing offers. Use a checklist for once the offer is accepted. Use a checklist before the renter moves in. Use a checklist once the renter moves in. A checklist for applications. A checklist for leases. Like there needs to be checklists for each piece, because once you get to having 20 properties, there's a high possibility then that balls could get dropped with so many things going on all the time. A lot of spinning plates. Step 7 is to renovate the property once you own it. I like to buy, my son calls them dumpy houses. We buy them in poor condition and fix them up. I bring my kids to do it too. They hate it. They grumble the whole way. I don't care. It's good for them. But that's how you make money. As I tell them, you make money with dumpy houses. Like I was like, look around you. You see that wall? That's part of your college fund, kid. Like, get a paintbrush. Let's go. They've learned to change out locks. They're in 6th and 8th grade. They think they know everything, right? So they may as well learn things like how to change locks and paint walls. So we renovate the properties, get it rent ready. And what I'm really trying to do here is make choices that will improve the appraised value and the amount that I can collect for rent by making smart decisions in the renovation stage. So if you are not in real estate full time, make sure you're tracking your hours when you're renovating the houses and looking for houses so that you can tell your accountant how many hours that you spent in the real estate industry. There are certain tax advantages for real estate professionals if you have that status. So track your hours here. I mentioned earlier that I get my kids involved. I also only let them spend 50% of what they make. They invest 20% into a Roth IRA. They save 20% for a large item. I tell them, like, you can save for your own rental house. You can save for a car. My 14-year-old decided he's going to save up for a G-Wagon. Okay, cool. Whatever motivates you, kid. I've talked to him about how it's a depreciating asset and it's not going to look at his net worth statement, but I'm still working on that argument. But for now, that's what he's saving his 20% for. And it makes them give away 10%. So I think it's good to for them to learn to live on 50%, because if they can do that the rest of their lives, they'll be pretty well off in the future and ahead of most of the other kids that are in college when they get there, if they get there. Make smart choices that will pay off at appraisal. We've talked about that. because I like to do the cash out refinances and home equity line of credits based on appraised value. I'll talk about that in a little bit later. So the next step, after you have identified the properties, bought the properties, fixed up the properties, now we're going to find respectable tenants and get leases signed. Make sure you follow the laws for advertising, handling applications, use the websites for applications and background checks, use a checklist for the new tenants. If it's allowed in your state, use your own lease that you can add things to, and I can give you a checklist for that in the class. But it's another opportunity to use a Google form too to quickly fill out leases in applications. Another idea, a tip to do is that when you're doing the walkthrough with the tenant, after they've decided that they want this house, and you're going to give them the keys and you meet them at the house, videotape the walkthrough so that you can prove the condition that it was when you gave it the keys to them. It may be needed later if there's an argument over if there's damage to the house or apartment, what damage was there at the move-in. So record those and get a move-in condition form signed that really documents any damage there. Then once they've moved in, it's your job to maintain and improve the property, use maintenance checklists. If there was a home inspection when you bought it, make sure that you fix those items that were in it. Put in working appliances, but not top of the line. You don't need like the Wolf range. Put in working windows, but it doesn't have to be Pella windows, doesn't have to be like top of the line Anderson windows. Just make improvements that will make a difference in the value and the rent income, like paint, flooring, light fixtures, small landscaping changes. And then as you're improving the value of the property and you're tracking your income that you can get for this property and your expenses on this property, then you'll be able to see if it's smart to get one of those home equity line of credits or do the cash out refinance loan on it and still clear your monthly amount that you know you need to clear. That's your criteria, whether it's $200 a month or $300 a month or $500 a month. And we said before, because that's what's going to determine how many properties you need. You need to know your profit on each property, what your average is per property, so you know how many you need. And you're going to keep adjusting these numbers as you track your income and expenses so that you can keep buying more properties. Keep going to classes and webinars from professionals, from like tax strategists, and meet with them to make sure you're getting all the deductions you need. Read books on all of the deductions you can get on rental properties. Talk to a lawyer about asset protections and LLCs and trusts. Make sure that you're protecting yourself and your properties to the maximum amount that you can. Same with insurance. And like we've said before, if the numbers look good, go ahead and get that cash out refinance loan. Go ahead and do the home equity line of credit. Now, a lot of banks will tell you we don't do that, or we'll only do it on we'll do a cash out refinance, but only on the purchase price, or only on the purchase price plus what you can prove you added to it, not on the appraised value. You may have to call 20 banks till you find one that will loan you the money on your terms. But then you use the cash from that to go buy another one and then do the same thing and repeat it over and over until you have your 20 properties that you need to replace your job. If you're not going to do that cash out refinance method, there's 19 other ways to pay for properties, which you can find in one of my other videos. Step 13 is this repetition and patience and perseverance. It's measuring and reflecting on the progress as you buy these properties. You're tracking the income and expenses. Like, you really can buy 20 units in 5 years. I'm actually going to make a video about that. So check my Instagram and Facebook on how to buy 20 units in 30 years. I bought, like I was saying, 53 units, well, 55 really over the last 3.5 years. You can do it. You absolutely can. And then step 14 is, once you've got all enough units, start hiring people for the things that you don't enjoy doing in the property management world. Track income and expenses, hiring someone to collect rent, hiring somebody to do evictions, doing clean outs and repairs and answering tenant phone calls. And that's when you're financially free, because then you won't have this job, and the income and profit pays for all of your life expenses. You don't have to have any other jobs. You can do what you love all day. You want to keep your job, keep your job. But if you don't want to, you just want to travel the world and spend time with family members, you can do that. My class that I teach is Fund Your Big Life with Rental Properties. This is what fundyourbiglife.com looks like when you go to it. It says on the site that it's $7.98, 2 payments of $3.99 for 2 months, but I have a coupon code for you. And also you should know that this is the last chance to take the course until March. I'm not teaching it again until March, but if you want to take it now and you use Wealth20 as the coupon code, you can save $159 and go ahead and start taking it. It starts next week on Wednesdays, but if for some reason you can't make it to the live classes, they're all recorded. You can go back and watch them later. Here's a QR code for it. Or you can go to fundyourbiglife.com. And you're going to get all of the things that I talked about today, the 14 steps, just much more detailed, the checklist, the procedures, all those things. It's 8 one-hour sessions. There's a Facebook group where you can ask me and other people that are from your class questions. If I find some good deals, I'll throw them in there in case you want to analyze some deals, possibly buy them. You get a workbook that I wrote. It's got 100 pages of content that you can use to build your real estate empire, and my spreadsheet that I use for analyzing deals. And you get to ask me questions about deals that you find. And if you want to, you can watch the recordings at home with your spouse if you guys are in this journey together, or with a partner that you might get into investing in real estate with. Gabby Renaholtz, who's the director of KW Wealth, took the course. So she said it's great step-by-step content. Kathy Sexton took the course. She said Heidi is inspiring. She gives good overall financial advice. And Susan Joyner says, whether you're new or seasoned, it's a great course to take, very detailed. So I hope you'll sign up for it. I'll put that QR code back up, and the coupon code, there it is, Wealth20. And I hope that you'll be able to attend. I am going to look in the chat and see if there's any questions I can ask quickly. Oh, thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. That's good to know. Amy says, I've taken the full course and Heidi exceeded my expectations. I'm currently in escrow on my first solo investment property, and I would highly recommend taking her classes. Thanks, Amy. That's nice. Let's see. Do you like direct? Someone asking the question in the chat. Do you like direct ownership and rental properties more than investing in syndications? Yes, I am one of those control freaks. I want to have control over my money. I don't like giving somebody my money and letting them invest it. But I know that a lot of people love it. Some of my coaching clients, they invest in syndications because they trust the people that are the general partners, and they like not having to do any of the work. They like being limited partners. I get it. It's just not for me. I'm more of a let me control my money thing. Someone says, what if your personal credit is horrible? Is there options out there to not use your money to finance these properties? Sure, you could have the debt partner or the equity partner, where you put in the hustle and they put in the money, and then you can always refinance later once you get that credit score up to own it yourself without the partners. Gina says, Heidi guided me to the purchase of 3 investment homes in a little more than a year. She is the best, incredibly knowledgeable. Thanks, Gina. You're the best. And so somebody says, what is the cost after the coupon? Well, it's $77.98 minus $159. So whatever that is with calculator. Tomas says, I love Heidi. I love you, Tomas. I just love everybody. Thanks everybody for being here today. I appreciate you all. You're the best. And I hope I see you in class next week. Have a great day.